Namaskar, welcome to this special discussion on the methanol economy. Well, the methanol economy promises to help India mitigate its petroleum import costs and also reduce CO2 emissions. Niti Aayog has organized a seminar on the methanol economy and its advantages for India, which was inaugurated today and is also on tomorrow. Now, the main advantage of methanol and the methanol economy is that it is sustainable. Methanol is a sustainable fuel and it can do almost everything that normal fossil fuels do. So to discuss the ethanol economy, we have with us a very eminent panel. We are joined by Dr. V.K. Saraswat, who is the member Niti Aayog. We have Professor Surya Prakash, who is the George Olah Nobel Laureate Chair at the University of Southern California in the United States and is perhaps the world's strongest voice on the methanol economy. And we have Gregory Dolan, is the CEO of Methanol Institute, USA. Thank you very much, gentlemen, for being with us. Dr. Saraswat, what's the purpose of this International Methanol Conference?
This conference is being organized basically to get support from the international community in our endeavor to get energy security. And if you have to achieve energy security, you have to look for alternate sustainable fuels.
True.
Methanol has been identified as one of the major sustainable fuel which can meet the requirements of India's ever increasing energy demand.
Okay.
So we look forward to participating and working together with large number of international institutions in the production, storage, transportation and conversion of engines and devices which work on fuels together so that we can have energy security in its totality.
Professor Surya Prakash, in your award-winning book, Beyond Oil and Gas, the Methanol Economy, you also say that it's a convenient energy storage medium. What exactly is that?
For example, gasoline or petrol, you store chemical energy in chemical bonds.
Right.
And methanol is a one-carbon alcohol, and it's very easy to make from a variety of sources, and it is the best medium to store chemical energy.
Right. Mr. Dolan, methanol is generally considered a chemical commodity. What do you see? I mean, globally, how is it being used? Is it being, is it increasingly being used?
Yeah, the last several years, the methanol industry has gone through a transition from being a typical chemical commodity, a feedstock for hundreds of products that touch our daily lives, paints, plastics, solvents, and resins, to really becoming an energy commodity. So we're using methanol as a direct transportation fuel in cars, buses, and trucks. We're now using methanol as a marine fuel in shipping. There are opportunities to use methanol for electric power generation, as a hydrogen carrier for fuel cell sources, and an important market we think for India will be using methanol for clean cook stoves.
Dr. Saraswat, India is already the third largest energy consumer.
Yeah,
sure. Would you see in the future, India producing methanol as well?
In fact, that's the exercise which is on today. We have to lay down a roadmap for transition from today's fossil fuel based economy to methanol based economy. If you look at the complete scenario of the energy security, our dependence is mostly on the fossil fuels imported.
True.
But we have a strong and very large coal reserve which we are using generally for the thermal power production and many other activities. Now, if we had to make use of it in a sustainable form, we had to convert this coal into methanol, which has got a much lower emissions, which are also gives you less greenhouse gases, plus it has a certain other advantages in terms of performance. So obviously, it is an accepted thing. It is a direct drop-in fuel for gasoline. Its derivative DME is a direct drop-in fuel for diesel. So obviously, we can straight away switch over into our existing vehicles and with slight modifications even for other systems like railways and marine applications. So it is one of the preferred options.
Professor Surya Prakash, at the University of Southern California, you'll have developed a way of producing methanol directly from carbon dioxide. Could you just elaborate on the benefits of that?
Carbon dioxide is produced when you burn fossil fuels.
Sure.
And right now we have a big greenhouse problem. It's about 400 parts per million in the air. And what we believe is CO2 can be readily converted to methanol if you have access to hydrogen. And the hydrogen can be made using any types of alternative energy such as geothermal energy or wind energy or solar, and water splitting, electrolysis. And once you can make methanol out of CO2, you create a fuel and feedstock which is almost carbon neutral.
Okay.
So this is the advantage. And methanol is a one carbon solution for CO2, a one carbon problem.
Mr. Dolan, China is the largest producer of methanol. What is actually driving the market and why is China doing this? I mean, first of all, they've had to make this move towards methanol, and now they're the largest producer.
Yeah, China's had a very rapid expansion of methanol production and consumption over the last decade. Today, some of the largest uses for methanol in China are direct fuel blending. The Chinese are putting 15% methanol in gasoline.
Okay.
They're also running cars, trucks, and buses on even 100% methanol. The real drivers behind this are economics. Methanol is about 1/3 the cost of gasoline in China. And then national security. They're producing methanol domestically in China, largely from coal. And then the third is environment. Methanol is a cleaner burning fuel, so they're seeing local pollution reductions from the use of methanol as a fuel.
So, Dr. V.K. Saraswat, the Chinese model, could India be adopting something similar?
The common factor between us and China is only one, that they also have huge coal reserves and we also have huge coal reserves.
Okay.
The quality of coal in India is slightly inferior to that in China, but it is almost similar. They have almost about 20 to 30% ash content. We are close to about 40 to 50% ash. But coal being the main fuel for production of methanol is something common. So we also have to ramp up our production capabilities for methanol production.
Sure.
If we have to enter into the methanol economy cycle, and that processes which are required for that, like gasification and things like that, and even other routes for production of methanol like biomass.
Okay.
India produces almost 1 million tons of biomass per month.
Right.
If we can really capture that and convert that into methanol, then certainly we are going to solve the problem of our energy security and reduce our import bills.
Professor Surya Prakash, is methanol a direct substitute for, let's say, diesel, for large vehicles, for shipping, for trains, for the railways, and how can it really be used?
Actually, it's being done already. In fact, there are engines built with methanol as a fuel. The engine, because of high octane methanol,
Right.
you can make the engine size smaller and you get the same power. So it will be a game changer for heavy transportation industry. And as we speak in Sweden, they are converted, huge ships. Stena is the shipping company. They have converted 50,000 ton frigates, which run on 32,000 HP diesel engines, which have been converted to methanol engines. And these kind of ideas could be taken up by the Indian railways.
Okay.
And the beauty of methanol is one of the cleanest burning fuel known to mankind.
Mr. Dolan, besides China, what are the other countries, that are utilizing the methanol economy?
Yeah, we recently saw that Israel adopted a standard for M15 fuel in gasoline. So the Israelis are looking at promoting methanol as a fuel. In Europe, as Professor Prakash mentioned, we're using methanol in marine fuels. There are activities right now using methanol in the third largest ferry. And we're now looking at designs for cruise ships, for RoPax ferry that can use methanol as a fuel. And there's other markets for methanol as a hydrogen carrier fuel for fuel cells. Even here in India, there are cell phone towers that are being fueled with methanol fuel cells today as backup power.
Dr. Saraswat, in terms of our current production capacity, if methanol is to be used as a transportation fuel, what will we actually need to be doing? What are we talking about ramping up?
I think you can imagine the type of import which we are doing today of the crude oil, which runs into almost 20 to 80 billion gallons, and in terms of rupees, it is almost a bill of about 4 lakhs crore.
Right.
So if we have to come even with a blending of 50% of methanol in the existing fuels like gasoline and diesel, obviously we'll have to go multifold as far as our production capability is concerned. But fortunately, we have such a huge coal reserve that all that can be easily met. Only the requirement is that we should do it in a competitive manner so that the cost of producing methanol in this country is globally competitive.
Okay.
Otherwise, we will run into a syndrome of import which has been taking place even today. We
Right.
find that the cost of producing the methanol in our country is not competitive at this hour. As a result, we have lot of spare capacity available, and we keep on importing for our various applications which are related to production of chemicals and fertilizers and so on.
Right. You're watching a special discussion on the methanol economy. We're going to take a short break. Keep watching. You're watching DD News.
दुकानदार ने मुझे छुआ, मुझे कहा कि अगर मैं किसी को बताऊं तो मुझे पुलिस पकड़ लेगी।
मेरे टीचर मुझे छूते हैं रोज, मैं किससे कहूँ?
मैं स्कूल नहीं गया, पड़ोस वाले भैया मुझे डराकर गंदी चीजें करता है।
मेरे स्कूल बस का कंडक्टर मेरे साथ गंदा काम करता है। अगर मैं पापा को बताऊं तो वो कहेंगे कि मैं झूठ बोल रही हूँ।
पापा मम्मी जब भी घर पे नहीं होते, मामू मुझे छूते हैं, कहते हैं कि ये सब मेरी मम्मी से पूछकर हो रहा है।
मेरे सीनियर ने मेरी तस्वीर मोबाइल से ली है बाथरूम में, अब वो इंटरनेट में डालने की धमकी दे रहा है।
अगर आपके साथ ऐसी हरकत होती है तो डरिए नहीं, तुरंत NCPCR के पॉक्सो ई-बॉक्स पर कंप्लेन कीजिए, हम आपकी मदद करेंगे।
उत्तर प्रदेश के करोड़ों लोगों के चेहरे पर मुस्कान लाने की जिम्मेदारी जिन कंधों पर है, वो कंधे हैं अखिलेश जी के, जिनके प्रयास से सबको साथ लेकर हर समाज, हर वर्ग, हर तबके के लिए योजनाओं की शुरुआत हुई है। उत्तर प्रदेश का हर व्यक्ति खुद को सामाजिक और आर्थिक तौर पर सुरक्षित महसूस करे, इसके लिए हर संभव प्रयास किए जा रहे हैं। आज किसी भी आपात स्थिति में 100 नंबर डायल करने पर 20 मिनट में पुलिस आप तक पहुंच जाएगी।
नहीं यार, अब ये रैगिंग बिल्कुल बर्दाश्त नहीं हो रही है, कंप्लेन तो करनी पड़ेगी।
तू पागल हो गई है क्या? सीनियर से पंगा लेगी तो तेरा और बुरा हाल करेंगे।
नो यार, हेल्पलाइन नंबर है, I'm sure they'll help।
हेल्पलाइन नंबर से कभी किसी को हेल्प नहीं मिलती।
एटलीस्ट वी शुड ट्राई।
आपकी थोड़ी सी हिम्मत और एक कंप्लेन की वजह से आपको रैगिंग जैसी बीमारी से छुटकारा मिल सकता है। यूज हेल्पलाइन, इट हेल्प्स।
सी से सिटी हो या डी से डिफेंस, सारे देश का इंजन हम ही तो चलाते हैं। HP लुब्रिकेंट्स A to Z आपके काम आते हैं। पेश है नए युग का नया महिंद्रा यूवो। इसका पावरफुल इंजन करे ऐसी जमीन पे भी ज्यादा काम जो पहले कभी नहीं हुआ। 15 गियर यानी अब हर काम होगा जल्दी। आधुनिक हाइड्रोलिक्स यानी हर बार 100% सटीक काम। महिंद्रा यूवो, ज्यादा जल्दी बेहतर।
Welcome back. You're watching a discussion on the methanol economy, opportunities and options. We have a very eminent panel. We have Dr. V.K. Saraswat, the member Niti Aayog, Professor Surya Prakash from the University of Southern California, and Mr. Gregory Dolan, the CEO of Methanol Institute, USA. Professor Surya Prakash, before the break, Dr. Saraswat was saying that the cost of producing methanol in India is high. But, does India have the ingredients? Does India have the all the raw material to be producing methanol reasonably cheap if efficiencies are developed?
Yes. In fact, India has 9% of the coal reserves, but the quality of coal is pretty bad, as Dr. Saraswat already mentioned. It's 45% ash content.
Okay.
But technology exists for converting gasifying coal to syngas and convert syngas to methanol. And economies of scale will help India to bring the cost down.
Okay, Mr. Dolan, why has the United States taken time to, move to methanol?
Well, actually, we're seeing a resurgence in methanol production in the United States. It's being driven by the shale gas revolution. If you go back 20 years ago, the U.S. was the world's largest methanol producer with 10 million metric tons of production capacity. When we saw the price of natural gas rapidly increase, we saw a lot of that production shut down. But now that shale gas has made natural gas affordable again, we've added 5 million metric tons of methanol production in just the last 3 or 4 years. And we'll probably add another 5 million tons in the next couple of years. So we are seeing a real resurgence in methanol and an interest in methanol again in the United States as a transportation fuel.
Right, but Mr. Dolan, is there a real case, a business case for methanol? Dr. Saraswat was mentioning the costs are high for India currently. What is the business case?
Yeah, I think the business case, if we're looking at market opportunities, probably the low-hanging fruit for us is using methanol as a diesel fuel substitute for heavy-duty trucks, buses, and the marine sector. Methanol is a very clean fuel. It's got no carbon-to-carbon bonds, so there's no particulate emissions, low NOx, low SOx, so it's a much cleaner burning fuel. And we think if you look at the diesel fuel sector, there's really few options for diesel fuel. It's not like light-duty passenger cars that you can put in batteries and run it. You really have trouble doing that with a heavy-duty truck. So there we think it's a real opportunity for methanol.
Dr. Saraswat, you did mention that the import bill will come down significantly, but does the methanol economy fulfill all the other goals associated with energy security?
Absolutely, because if you look at our energy security pathways, today we are producing most of our energy from fossil fuels. It's more than about 80 to 90% is fossil fuel. We have a greater push to get into renewables. Our Honorable Prime Minister has given a call, and that's why we are going renewables to the tune of solar itself 100 gigawatts. But if you had to start looking at a situation that before we reach the hydrogen economy, which is the ultimate thing required for getting energy security, we tied over all the technology building blocks which are required for hydrogen economy. The only interim solution available is to enter into the methanol economy because of the huge reserves we have. Number two, it is sustainable. Number three, it is going to be competitive because methanol is not just for energy production. It is basically a fuel which is used as a feedstock for large number of chemicals, fertilizers. So when we create a methanol island, the economy will be dictated not only for the fuel as such, but it is also for a large number of chemicals directly mined from the coal mines straight away, putting the plants across in the vicinity, reducing the logistics cost, and then producing methanol for the purpose of energy, producing chemicals for the purpose of our chemical industry. That will make sense.
Professor Surya Prakash, I read somewhere that methanol is highly toxic. So in this sense, I mean, how is it good for the environment?
Yeah, methanol, okay, and of course if you drink it, it's very bad.
Yeah.
But methanol is very safe. In fact, methanol spills, the nature takes care of it. It's a plant growth promoter. And all bacteria would, consume methanol without any problem. Okay. Only higher level organisms have a problem with methanol toxicity.
Okay.
And methanol also, you can add an additive, which is very bitter. So anybody would like to drink it, he will spit. So this can be taken care of. And methanol is already used in copious amounts in windshield wiper fluid. In your car, when you try to wipe the windshield, there's already 70% methanol. You're using it.
Okay.
So this toxicity is an issue, but it can be handled.
And what are the low-hanging fruits that India can, take advantage of currently?
I think the low-hanging fruits for India is adopting methanol economy using its huge coal reserves and also the non-edible biomass. India is endowed with almost every year 1 billion tons of biomass is produced. And 30% of it can be directed to gasification to make methanol. And this will be a game changer for India.
In relation to crude oil that currently exists, Mr. Dolan, what are the prospects for the Methalone economy? Because it's competitive, isn't it? It's competing with already existing fuels.
If you look at the methanol demand right now, 40% of our global demand is tied to oil, to energy markets. So as oil prices rise and fall, so do methanol pricing. Right now, India has the lowest methanol pricing anywhere in the world at about 57 cents per gallon. Okay. And on a global basis, it's more closer to about 67 cents. So it's a very affordable product right now.
Dr. Saraswat, what's the role of the Niti Aayog constituted expert committee for adopting the methanol economy, and what is the roadmap, sir? How do you see it?
Actually, Niti Aayog is playing a major role in finding the pathways for the energy security. Among these pathways, methanol economy finds a major place. So we want to make sure that the country develops indigenous technologies for all the technologies which are associated with the methanol economy, like gasification, as you know, dispensing the methanol when it becomes as a fuel, converting the engines for operation on DME and the methanol, and associated activities for logistics, transportation, and so on. Now, that's the major role of Niti Aayog, to come out with a roadmap as to how we will usher our country into the methanol economy era.
Right. Professor Surya Prakash, we did say right at the start that methanol is a sustainable fuel. Why is it so sustainable? Let's just, in simple words, could you explain it to our audience?
Actually, the way I explain this is methanol will be a bridge fuel for India for the interim. Ultimately, India, is bestowed with a lot of solar energy. So using the solar energy, we can make hydrogen, and hydrogen and carbon dioxide can be converted to methanol. That way, as long as sun is alive, next 4.5 billion years, we can keep on making methanol from recycled CO2. This will be a game changer again, as I said.
Right. Mr. Dolan, if it's so easy, then why hasn't it happened so far?
Well, we are, again, seeing a pretty rapid expansion of methanol on a global basis. I think some of the challenges here in India are looking at the feedstock base. The feedstocks represent about 90% of the cost of making methanol. So in various places of the world, in the Middle East, they use natural gas as a feedstock because it's there and it's affordable. In China, they're using coal as a feedstock because it's there and affordable. Here in India, we could certainly use coal as a feedstock for methanol production, and also biomass. The rural community can spend a lot of activity using waste biomass for methanol production. So then you can look at creating economic development and jobs in rural India.
In terms of creation of jobs, Dr. V.K. Saraswat, what do you see the methanol economy doing in terms of that? And also, as a fuel for, let's say, the Indian Railways in the future, what do you think, would this Niti Aayog constituted committee be looking at in terms of, trying to bring in methanol as a fuel for the largest network, not largest, but the carrier of the largest number of people in the world?
See, Indian Railway should be the first actually to take up the methanol economy, because if you look at the consumption, Indian Railway consumes the largest quantity of diesel oil, and if you want to convert diesel engines running on methanol, then it should be the fastest. Already, as Professor Surya Prakash was telling, there are countries who have converted ship engines for working on methanol. Similarly, they have done railway engines converted on methanol. So it is feasible that the existing railway engines, the locos, can be converted to work on methanol. So that's one possibility that will reduce our bill totally. As regards the employment is concerned, I think if you usher methanol economy into the system, then the gasification plants, methanol production plants, the methanol dispensation systems, conversion kits which are going to be required for converting the 2-stroke engines, the 4-stroke engines, and also even the employment opportunities for those who are going to take methanol as a direct fuel cell fuel. That I think Professor Surya Prakash has already developed a fuel cell which can be directly working on methanol. If I have that, I can solve the problem of today's, these towers of our cell phone towers. So these are ample opportunities for the jobs for our people.
Right, we'll have to leave it there. Thank you very much, gentlemen, for joining us on this special discussion on the methanol economy. Well, there is immense potential for methanol and DME, or dimethyl ether, as a fuel for road as well as shipping and rail transport, and Niti Aayog has constituted this expert committee to develop a roadmap for India to adopt the methanol economy, and it will also draw out a technical roadmap to adopt both methanol and DME as fuel, as chemical feedstock, and also for power generation. Thanks very much for watching. Namaskar.